Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast, the podcast where I help moms laugh at their mistakes and find connection through our shared stories. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, and I'm here to remind moms that everyone burns their first pancake. Today, I have on a special guest on the podcast. I sat down and chatted with Alison Beder-Sulway. It was an amazing conversation. I got off just feeling so inspired by her story. So she recently debuted her memoir, The Miles We Run, and it chronicles her path to motherhood through surrogacy, a journey that tested every ounce of her resilience and patience. The book is an honest account of the emotional and physical challenges of infertility and surrogacy, and how she found surprising parallels between this experience and her training for the New York City Marathon. All of these things, I just left feeling so inspired by her story. She's just so easy to chat with, and I just loved her devotion to motherhood and the things she's overcome and the lessons she's learned from that. So get ready for a wonderful conversation, and make sure you check out the description below for a link to her book, The Miles We Run. Alison, welcome to the podcast.
Katie, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story. So why don't you start us off? Introduce yourself to the viewers. Let us know how many kids you have, their ages, where you are.
Sure. So my name is Alison Beder-Sulway, and I have 4 children. My daughter Hannah is 25. My son Aiden is 21. And I have twins. Rowan, he's 20, and Caleb is 20.
Oh my goodness. Oh, twins. Okay, I have a
Yes.
Ronin, so very close to Rowan.
Ronan, yes.
That gets mixed up all the time. A lot of times they call them that. Love the names.
Oh, thank you.
Oh gosh, so you're in like a new stage of motherhood where are they all out of the nest, or are any of them home still?
One is done essentially. My daughter Hannah just completed her master's of science in marine biology.
Wow.
So she is pretty done. She's traveling. So she's not at home, but she's not done being at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then my 3 sons are all in university. So they're not at home, but they're not done being at home.
Yes.
But it's a very unique stage. It's a hard stage. It's a hard stage. I loved having my kid. I love when my kids are home. It's hard letting them go.
Yes.
It's
And
a hard transition.
your baby's just left not long ago. Was that a big adjustment going from like having someone home to like they're
Huge,
done now?
especially because it was like 3 and 4 left, and our house has always been like a hub of in and out and friends, and friends that are like family, and the kids having just it got very quiet very quickly. I feel very lucky that my husband and I are good friends.
Yeah.
And we have a strong foundation.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
it's an adjustment.
I know we're going to get to your book, but I want to ask you more about this.
Sure.
Do you have any tips for moms who are like about to or are going through this new phase? Because I'm already looking like my kids are still pretty young, but I'm looking at this thinking like this is going to be, this is going to be an adjustment. Like what were some things that helped you get through it?
I think it's an adjustment because the reason for your existence almost for the past, let's say 18 years is it pivots, it changes. So your kids still need you, but they need you in a different way. So I think it's very important to start to think about, not necessarily reinventing yourself, but recalibrating, reinvesting in yourself. So what are things that I like to do that maybe I haven't done? Hobbies that I've always thought I'd like to pick up that I haven't had an opportunity to because I've been too busy carpooling and sports and dance and whatever that looks like for you. But re-engage with yourself, get to, learn who you become, what you want to do. Is there a shift that you would like to make in your life? Are you happy? Are you content? Really look inwards, I think.
Mm.
And it's a big adjustment. It's a big adjustment, especially, as a very hands-on mom. My profession, I'm in the fitness industry. I really geared my hours around my family so I could
Mhm.
be present. I had that opportunity to do so, and I wanted to make sure I was home and present. Not, that doesn't work for everybody, which I totally understand. But so, when the kids left, it was like it allowed me time that I hadn't had in the past to start to think about how I could fulfill some of the things that I maybe wasn't doing for myself because I was busy doing things for other people.
For all four of them. Oh, and I really love that because it's instead of taking, it could be a very sad stage, like, oh, it's empty, they're gone. And
Right.
instead of dwelling on that, you are now taking the initiative to now focus on you, which
Yes.
I'm giving everything to the kids right now, like,
Right. Which is
oh,
also hard. That's a hard
mhm.
stage too. It's, you kind of lose yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
you
So here
know.
you're like finding yourself again.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
But
that.
I am gonna say that I was very sad.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like I woke up with, nothing to do on a daily basis, but like I cherish the moments that like my family is all together.
Are they
Very
all
much
going to
so.
come home for Christmas or like the
Yes.
holiday?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
my daughter, no, but my sons, yes. So
That's exciting.
I'm excited to have everybody home, and then two of them are doing exchange overseas.
Oh, wow.
So yes, so I'll
They're
have
living their
three,
best
like
lives.
they
They
are living
are.
their best lives. They absolutely
Enjoy
are.
it, kids. Do it now. Do it while
That's
you're
right.
young. Okay, you
That's
also
right.
mentioned earlier that you and your husband have a solid foundation. So I could see
Yes.
this something like right now, my husband and I, it's like the kids, like focus on the kids and get them to bed. How did
Mhm.
you maintain that solid foundation during those busy years of raising the kids?
I think carving out time for yourselves is really important. I think communication throughout our whole relationship. We've been together, we've been married for almost 29 years now.
Congratulations.
Um, Thank you. But communication is key. So, I'm not one to let things fester. And if there's something that, we needed to discuss, we discuss it. Good, bad, all of it.
Mhm.
But I think it's really important to like make sure that you listen, you communicate, and you make the time to be together. That doesn't
Right.
mean like every hour of every day, obviously, because you're so busy with,
Yeah.
your life and responsibilities, but making sure that you've carved out time for yourselves.
Yeah.
So,
Because like
and
you
that could
have
be a
to think
walk.
in your head one day the kids are going to be gone. And I
Right,
still want you to be my best friend. I still want to know
right,
you when the kids are
right,
gone.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it,
Listen, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of couples, decide that they're not the same people they were when they got together. It's a time where sometimes couples decide that maybe they're better off not together.
Mhm.
It's just he and I at home right now.
Yeah.
So we're together a lot and we both work from home. So
A lot together then.
there's a lot of together time, but it's important to really, love and respect. And first and foremost is be friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And like
I
what
think,
we're starting to realize is like date night looks very different than it used to
right,
when, we didn't have kids. I mean, the other night we had a gift card to a restaurant that we've had for months and finally we're like, okay, we have a night we can go. After
yeah,
dinner, we were like, we've got time still. We should do our Christmas shopping. So we went to Target and did Christmas shopping, which is
right, right,
not what we used to do back in the past before
right.
kids,
Of
but it was
course.
really fun. And we got home and I was like, man, it felt good to check that off my list. And I had you there helping me. It was
That's
it was
exactly it.
different, but yeah,
You got to do it together.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
as opposed to you like taking the cart and going down the aisle and like, oh, and getting frustrated, I'm
Hmm.
doing this alone. It was a joint venture, and that's
Yeah, it
that's
was.
really nice.
It ended up being fun. We like smelled all the candles in the aisle. Like I had
Yeah,
time to shop. So then I was like, hey, guess this scent was this. And I'm like, we wouldn't have done that if it was just us sitting at home.
right.
So yeah,
Right.
it's different.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to your memoir. So you recently wrote The Miles We Run. Can you
Yes.
discuss what made you write it and kind of what it's about?
Absolutely. So the Miles We Run chronicles my journey to motherhood through surrogacy, and it weaves the narrative of my training for the New York City Marathon, which I recognize two totally distinct paths. However, there are many shared qualities that I called upon during my training for the New York Marathon that I learned and grew from during our surrogacy experience. So, at first glance, you would think, how are those two similar at all? But they share very similar qualities in endurance, patience, discipline, hope, courage,
Mhm.
all the feels that I really learned and embraced through our surrogacy journey and applied to cross that finish line in New York. Um, the memoir, most importantly, highlights this like all of our inner strength because we've all run marathons, maybe not in the literal sense,
Mhm.
but we've all overcome hurdles in our lives. And the memoir really looks, even though it's my narrative, it helps the reader reflect on the inner strength that they have through their own stories. So my hope is that, and the feedback has been so unbelievable that as you're reading the miles we run, you're actually focusing on the miles that the reader has run based
Yeah.
on how they've had to call upon the resilience that they have within themselves during the marathons that they've run themselves, metaphorically.
Yeah. Because
So,
motherhood is not a sprint. It
it
is
certainly
definitely
is
a
not.
marathon.
It
Yeah.
certainly is not. So it came from, I journaled our entire surrogacy experience. It was not a straight and narrow path.
Mm-hmm.
I initially started journaling thinking, I'll have a journal for our future child to read as a keepsake to know we love them prior to their conception. And one journal turned into two journals, turned into three journals. And after Rowan and Caleb were born, I had, I knew I had a story. I just was in the throes of raising,
Yeah.
four small children, and I closed those books and I put them away. And then as my daughter was in university and the boys were starting to get, in their later years of high school, I decided to revisit those journals. And then at the same time, I was also turning 50. So I was contemplating running a marathon. Been a runner forever, but I wanted to do something to challenge myself. So as we were speaking earlier, this was for me because training for a
Mhm.
marathon requires a lot of discipline and a lot of time. So I
Absolutely.
felt that I was at a stage where I could start doing something that required a lot of time for myself without taking
Hmm.
away from how my kids needed me.
Yeah.
And again, I wrote this book to inspire others that there is hope even on really hard paths.
I love that. Okay, I want to talk about two parts of the book. So your surrogacy journey and
Yes.
then just training for a marathon
Okay.
at 50. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so your surrogacy journey, tell us a little bit about that. What led you to surrogacy?
So I had always dreamed of having a large family. My husband and I got pregnant very easily. I had a very challenging pregnancy. I almost lost my life
Oh my
at the
God. And this
beginning
was
of
with
the
your
age.
daughter?
This
Your
is with
daughter's
our
pregnant?
daughter, yes.
Wow.
And I write about this all in the book. And
Hmm.
after her birth, about a month later, I was diagnosed with a genetic condition called hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. It's a mouthful,
I
HHT.
was gonna say.
Yes, it's a vascular condition. But I was also told that I couldn't carry any more children because I would
Wow.
die.
Was this something that you just always had, or did the pregnancy bring it on?
Yes, so I've always had it. It's genetically born with it. Never knew
Okay.
I had it,
Didn't
but
know. Okay.
essentially my, just for the sake of keeping it very simple, my heart pumps double the amount of blood that most normal, people my age would like the flow is double
Okay.
the amount, say, of what your heart
Yeah.
would pump. When I became pregnant, as when women become pregnant, the blood flow doubles. So
Hmm.
mine quadrupled.
Oh my God.
So I went into right congestive heart failure.
Wow.
And I didn't know this, obviously. I never would have attempted a
Yeah.
pregnancy had I known this. In a way, Hannah saved my life because she came when she needed to come, so my heart could
Yeah.
stabilize, which it did,
Wow.
and I was double-edged sword, blessed, and then obviously given life-changing news.
Right. Devastating,
Yeah,
probably.
devastating.
Someone who wants to.
Absolutely. For someone that always thought, the adage, we make a plan and God laughs. So,
Mm.
I had a plan, three children, similar
Yeah.
to how I grew up. I have a very close relationship with my brother and sister, and I wanted siblings for Hannah.
Hmm.
So, I go into this in the miles we run in a very elaborate way, but when I was told that I couldn't carry any more children, all I could focus on was how am I gonna how am I gonna change this outcome? How am I gonna have another
Right.
child?
Because it's
And
it's hard to hear when it's like it's not my choice to not have more
yes,
kids. It's not
yes,
like I'm just choosing not to have more. It's like
right,
now
right,
you can, and you're like,
right. It was taken from me, and it's interesting you mentioned that, Katie, because writing this book has been such a cathartic experience for me. Um, I never looked back when I put those journals away. I never reflected on how we actually got to where we were. I
mm,
just wanted to move forward with
right,
my family.
back
I'd
on.
had enough heartache. We endured quite a road to get to Aiden, Rowan, and Caleb.
Hmm.
And I never properly grieved not being able to have any more children. And exactly as you mentioned, it was taken
Hmm.
from me.
Hmm.
It wasn't my choice. And
Yeah.
that was a really hard thing to overcome.
Yeah.
So especially when you're in, you're seeing your friends and your mom, the moms and your baby and me groups all starting to
Mhm.
expect their second
People
child and third.
asking you, when are you having another one?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it hard to go back and read those journals?
So hard.
I can
I'll
imagine, like
start to
just
cry.
bringing back all those feelings. Oh
I
my
it
gosh.
it I was I get emotional because
Hmm.
it's almost like I was reading this story thinking whose life was this.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
very eye-opening
Yeah.
and
Oh,
very sorry. No, I'm sorry. You go
no,
ahead.
go. No, no, I don't want to
Very
interrupt you.
proud of myself because it was a hard road. It was a hard, we worked with numerous surrogates in Canada, and then finally we went into the US where we were successful, but it took us a long time to get there.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked? And like, when did you decide to go the surrogacy route?
While I was sitting in that office, when my doctor, who is still my doctor today, told me I couldn't have any more children, my mother, I remember years past, had told me a story of, I don't know if you watch soap operas, but Days of Our Lives,
Yes, I remember
Deidre
my
Hall.
sick days. Yep.
Okay, so Deidre Hall had her girls via a surrogate. I believe she has
Oh,
twin girls, and I believe she had them through a surrogate. And
wow.
I'm sitting in that office thinking, Deidre Hall did it. I'm going to figure out how to do this too. Because 25 years ago, surrogacy was shrouded in silence. There was hardly any resources in Canada, more in the US, but very hard to research. And
Mhm.
remember, the internet wasn't like it is now.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
yeah, it was a different, it was a whole different experience having to find the resources to start a journey like that. And we attempted with two carriers with a clinic here in Toronto. And then after 2 years of no success, we decided to move into the US where we worked with another couple carriers there, and I elaborate this in the book, but
Mhm.
one carrier, it turned out, wasn't honest with us, and
Oh,
we had wasted almost a year, working with her. And, at the psych eval, things came out that, um, wouldn't make her a right candidate to carry a
mhm.
child for another couple. And then we signed on with another surrogate in the States who was already caring for another couple. So she had already done this before, but unfortunately, during the delivery of that birth, there were complications. She's fine, the babies were fine, but she couldn't carry another baby for at least a year. And then we found our carrier, and then we had issues with our first pregnancy with her. And it just, what could go wrong did go wrong. And then I wouldn't change a thing because I've been blessed with, four beautiful children who, had I not gone through what I went through, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah. And like so many
So
times I've been hearing this lately because I've been like questioning, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Should I? And they just say that what is going to happen, you can't even imagine how good it's going to be. So you're going through this path because you're getting to that one place. And,
right.
the heartbreak and that probably was all. Now you can look back and say it was meant to be. But
Yes.
in the moment, oh my gosh.
In the
And
moment,
maybe
you could
that's
not see
why
that.
you and your husband stayed so strong together because you went through a lot together.
Yep. I think that's part of it. Kenny, my husband, was essential for me. Like, I was blessed to have my daughter who was such a bomb. Like, she was such a part of pure joy in my life, going through negative pregnancy test after negative
Mm.
pregnancy test. And remember, it's not my body. So not only am I going through IVF, but I have no control over what my gestational carrier is, doing. I'm hoping that she's doing all the right things. I'm trusting that she's doing all the right things. But again, it's another piece of the puzzle that you have no control over. You have to
Hmm.
trust the process. You have to learn to trust the process. You have to learn to let go of control. I'm a type A, very
I
hard.
I could see that being so hard, letting go of
Yeah,
control. Was
yes.
she local? Like, were you able to physically see her? Was she like in another area where you could just like call on the phone?
So our the surrogate that ended up
Yeah.
carrying our kids, she was from Pennsylvania. So we spoke on the phone. There's that balance.
Hmm. Oh
It's
my
it's
gosh,
a it's a
yes.
very interesting story because it's not like you can just call them up every
Yeah.
single hour of every single day. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Are
Right.
you, are you sitting down? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you hydrating? Everything that you want to make sure that they're doing. You have to
Yes.
trust that they're doing. So we spoke with her regularly. Remember, there was no FaceTime,
Oh
there was
yeah.
no Zoom,
Oh, her
there
doctor's
was
appointments, you couldn't just like zoom in.
no,
Oh,
no. So we traveled to many of the doctor appointments, the
okay.
ultrasounds. For Rowan and Caleb's pregnancy, we had webcam, so we could
Okay.
actually,
Okay. Were the
talk to
twins, was
her.
that a surprise? Or was it a higher probability of having twins because of doing this?
There's always, with IVF, there's always an increased chance if you put in more than one embryo
Okay.
that you will have twins. Rowan and Caleb were our third twin pregnancy.
Oh,
We lost
wow.
our first working with a carrier in Toronto. We
Hmm.
miscarried at 9 weeks, a twin pregnancy. And Aiden's pregnancy was also a twin pregnancy. And we discovered at 9 weeks that one of the fetuses had a terrible abnormality that had the pregnancy continued, that fetus would have overtaken the entire
No.
pregnancy and both fetuses would have died.
Oh my
So we
God.
had to reduce the fetus with
Right.
the abnormalities, and that was a huge thing. And given the reproductive climate in the US right now, I don't know if that option would even be available to us.
Yeah.
It really raises a lot of questions.
Right. He wouldn't have been here. I mean, this is talking about throwing everything at you,
Oh,
right?
it's everything. The miles we run is about a lot of miles,
So
that's
I'm
for sure.
guessing your kids are perfect angels. They, after everything that you went through before getting them, they are so easy to parent, right?
No, not no, no. But I will say this, that my path to becoming a mother was different than a lot of paths for other mothers who don't necessarily have the complications that I did, that gave me a different insight into parenting. And I speak about this in the book.
Mm.
Um, I don't take anything ever for granted. And I could get emotional as I am
I
about this
do
as
do get
well.
emotional. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't easy having my family.
Hmm.
So I could never take, even in those moments of like 3 a.m. colic or tantrums or, sibling um, arguments, I could never take any of that for granted. So
Hmm.
even though I'm living it and it's not fun to live through,
Yeah.
I came at it from a different perspective because it was so hard to get there in the first place.
Oh, and that is such a blessing that came from that.
A
Such
hundred
a
percent.
blessing.
A
Yeah.
hundred percent.
It's like
Yes.
what a beautiful perspective to have.
Thank
I
you.
love that. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about running a marathon.
Okay.
Okay, so you said you had always been a runner, but a marathon is like, that's a next level. So
Yes.
what made you decide to go for the full marathon and how was that?
An amazing experience. It was so effing hard. I'll
I've only
just,
done a half, and I remember
right.
we trained, this is before kids, we trained for months and months, and you spent 6 hours on a Saturday doing your long run, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you do a full?
Well, I really, I'd always kind of wanted to run a marathon. I've done different triathlons in the past. So I've run distance, but you're right, running a marathon, 26.2 miles is a totally different experience. And when I turned 50, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start training at 49. I'm gonna run at 50, and then COVID hit.
Oh,
So I'm like, I'm not running at 50. I'm gonna run it at 51.
51, 51.
Yes.
There we go. Everything got put on hold
That's
during
right.
COVID.
So I had an extra year. So and you know what? It was the training's grueling. Like you get to the halfway and you're like, okay, I can do this. And then after that 13 miles, it just gets harder and harder
Yeah.
and harder. And its preparation is so important. It's key, but nothing prepares you for race day because you have no idea what the weather's going to be like, how
Mm.
your body's going to feel. Are you going to be on your period? You have like you have
Yes.
no clue. And I didn't have my period that day, but it was November 6th. It was so
Cold.
humid in New York, like
Oh, wow.
record-breaking humidity. So, and my start time wasn't until like a quarter to 11 or 11. And like I'm running middle of the day. So it
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
absolutely grueling. but best feeling ever crossing that finish line.
Oh, I
Best feeling.
bet. I
So
bet.
proud of myself.
Oh man, that's amazing. Did
Yeah.
you have running partners? Did you have like a coach training you?
So my brother, sister, and I did the marathon together.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We run every
Wow.
Saturday morning together. And when I was 49, when I decided to run the marathon, I called my brother and I'm like, Adam, you're never going to believe this. I signed up for the New York City Marathon. And he's like, I won't say it on just because he used different kind of language. And then he's like, no way. So did I. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Oh
And
my
then I called
gosh.
my sister and I'm like, you're not going to believe this, telling her the story. And she's like, well, if you two are doing it, I'm
I'm
doing
doing
it.
it. Yes.
So the three of us,
Oh,
we trained together and separate. And we all had different start times. We all had different experiences, but we all finished. And
yay. Oh, that's
it was a
awesome.
really special, special race on many
Right.
levels.
Oh my gosh. The mental toughness, I think,
Yeah,
would probably be harder than the physical almost.
100%. A marathon is a mental negotiation. Every mile is a mental negotiation.
Mm.
That's exactly what it is. It is, yes, you have to be physically trained to do it, but you have to be mentally prepared to push yourself to actually do it.
Wow. Had you,
Yeah.
during your training, had you actually done a full marathon in training, or was that the first time you did the 26.2?
It was the first time I did the 26.2. I
Mhm.
think the farthest I had run was 24 miles.
Okay.
And I had done that once about 2 months prior. And then I started to taper off
Okay.
my runs. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was
Wow.
hard. That was hard. But it also wasn't, so humid. Like who would think they moved the
Yes.
marathon actually. It used to be in October, November. October, the marathon, they moved it to November
And it was still
because,
hot.
yeah, the heat.
Of
So,
course. Of course.
yeah.
Okay. Have you done any since then?
I've done half marathons.
Okay.
I won't do another full marathon. It was really hard on my body.
Hmm.
I loved it. I've done it. I don't need to put myself through that
Yeah.
again. Yeah, I just, also with my heart, it's like,
Oh,
why?
yeah.
You
I
know?
was going to ask when you mentioned your heart thing, my first thought was, did your doctor say it's okay to run?
So yes, I'm very physically active.
Okay.
Fitness for me is like it's a
Second
part of
nature.
my everyday. Yes, it's
Okay.
like breathing for me. But I had to get my cardiologist, my respirologist on board before I even considered running the
Hmm.
marathon. And I've trained my body in a way that I keep my heart rate down when I run. It's taken me years to do so. It's not about speed. I'm happy with my times when I run, but it's not about speed. For me, it's about consistency and just being able to get out there and to do it.
Yeah. And you're in a
So,
special club of people who have finished a marathon.
yeah, I guess.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
less than
impressive.
1% of the population, I'm told. So,
Wow. Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I did a half and that was in my 20s. And I look back
Right,
and I didn't do one since then. I was like, I did it.
right. Yeah, well, maybe when you turn 50, you'll run a
Maybe,
marathon.
maybe add it to it. Oh my gosh. So interesting. So, what are some life lessons that you have learned from this whole journey? So, from running.
That's such a good question, Katie. I think discipline and consistency pay off. I think that especially in running, you have to be disciplined to do it, and you have to be consistent with actually doing it as well. So I think the two work hand in hand. Um, I think what I learned from surrogacy and running is to celebrate those small wins.
Mm,
So the progress, it's not about perfection. So I have hindsight now, but I can actually look at what I learned and how I learned during our surrogacy journey and how there were small victories throughout, and how I found the strength within those victories to move and overcome the so many obstacles that were in my path. I think we're such a society that focuses on big major milestones that sometimes we lose the ability to look at how we got to that milestone. And it's really that journey that takes
Mm.
us to the milestone that is worth acknowledging. Not saying that the milestone isn't a big deal. Crossing the finish line was a big deal, but the journey was, and the lessons were on the way towards that milestone, not the milestone itself.
Yes. Yes to all of that. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I'm feeling that. Okay, if we wanted to get your book and learn more about you, where can we find it?
So the best way is to go to themileswerun.com, my website, and my book is available on every major online book platform, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Booktopia. It's available in ebook, Kindle, all those, and it's going to be in bookstores. I don't know exactly when, but my publisher hasn't expressly told me when to expect it to be in bookstores, but I'm hoping that in the next few months it's in bookstores as well.
That's awesome. Okay, just really quick, are you,
Yes.
did you, is your career in writing or is this something you just like picked up writing? And now you said you have a publisher and this is
Well, I
impressive.
worked with an independent publisher.
Okay.
It's not traditional and it's
Okay.
not self. It's like a middle of the ground.
Okay.
So it was a joint effort. I've always loved to write. I've
Okay.
always loved to write. I really didn't think about writing a book until I finished those journals. I
Hmm.
knew I had a story. I just had no idea how I was going to frame it, write it. At that time, I wasn't thinking about it. So when I started, as we discussed earlier, rereading the journals, I was like, okay, so I started researching, what I need to do. I started reading about memoir writing. I started researching different editors who I could potentially work with. I found an unbelievable editor who I was felt so privileged to have had work with me on this project. And yeah, I loved it. It was literally one of the best experiences of my life writing this book. It just, and hearing from readers is just something I cherish so much. It's been such an amazing, it's a truly amazing feeling to to feel like somebody understands my story, but looks at their own strength through my words and how it's resonated with the each reader differently. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm really proud of this book. I really am.
Wow. From start to finish, from like, I have the idea and I'm going to start typing the first page to I'm holding the book in my hand. How long did that take?
5 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, 5 years.
I bet your kids are so proud of you. Were they
Oh,
so proud?
yeah. They were proud and they helped me edit too. They
Oh,
came up with great feedback. I have to say, you don't always see what you're missing until somebody points out that you didn't really elaborate here or you didn't consider this. And
yeah.
they each one of them provided valuable input to the story.
Mm,
So yeah, I'm
and
really excited about it. I'm excited to see where, I
yeah.
can go with this, and I just hope that it gives a community of people who are going or struggling through infertility or using surrogacy as their paths to parenthood, the hope that, with a little bit of perseverance and a little bit of hope, it can happen.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Um, this is so inspiring. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate hearing your story.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope this inspiring story made your day and you go out and run to Amazon or wherever you buy your books and get The Miles We Run. I'm including a link in the description below so that you know exactly how to find it. And I would love if anyone reads it. I'm going to read it. So if anyone does, I want you to connect with me and let me know your thoughts. This was just such a wonderful conversation, and I so appreciate Alison sharing it with us. So I hope everyone is doing well this December, surviving the craziness that is the holidays, remembering to take care of yourself a little bit, and to remember that everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.